So what does our country's founding have to do with metabolic freedom? Everything. We desperately need to start a true health revolution, just not what we've seen played out over the past year. Our founding fathers took responsibility for their personal independence and self-determination, and that's what the revolution was about. Like those core human values of freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you deserve metabolic freedom by getting your body back to burning fat as fuel the way nature intended. Celebrating our country's independence this 4th of July is the perfect opportunity to get you thinking about metabolic freedom. Now, to start with, I've been saying for a while that we need a revolution, just not what we've seen played out over the past year. Now, why is that? Well, because when you look at these events, whether it was the Black Lives Matter riots or the insurrectionist run on our nation's capital, these events really are forms of acting out due to fear, uncertainty, and frustration, with these people placing blame rather than taking responsibility. Demanding through violence that government fix their issues rather than having the government supporting the individual and their self-determination is what's missing. And this independence and self-determination support by government, these are the underpinnings of the Constitution and Bill of Rights. And our founding fathers took responsibility for their personal independence and self-determination, and that's what the revolution was about. They righted a great wrong through the American Revolution, but what is more important, after they defeated the British, they were responsible in making sure personal freedoms were the right of every individual, of course, in the context of those times. Because sure, these men were self-serving, most of them had slaves, and women at the time were essentially considered chattel. The Constitution and Bill of Rights they created, they've not only stood the test of time, but as humans have culturally and socially evolved, those constitutionally enshrined rights and freedoms have only become more powerful and global through the inclusion of every human being. Many countries have adopted these basic human rights that our forefathers made. So what does this have to do with metabolic freedom? Well, it has everything to do with it. The biggest act of insurrection is actually taking responsibilities for oneself and one's actions instead of blaming others. To become independent, one has to first take the steps to be less dependent. And that is easier said than done in a world where we pay a lot of lip service to self-empowerment and self-determination. But the actual reality is humans have become more dependent and interdependent than ever before. And so it goes with our health. We desperately need to start a true health revolution. Not a diet, not a new type of workout modality, not a shiny high-tech measuring device or app, nor another attempt by Congress to overhaul the healthcare system. Every one of us, you, has to develop individual metabolic freedom by getting our physiology and metabolism back to the one nature endowed us with, the one that optimizes fat metabolism. Those of us revolutionaries, people like Mike Mutzel, Brett Weinstein, Ivor Cummings, Dr. Scott Johnson, myself and others, who from the start have and continue to publicly call to question the current situation, we're being censored, dismissed, silenced, or discredited. But as the data grows and clinical evidence grows to counter the status quo, distinguished scientists in the field have also come forward to speak out because now they have data to support what they're saying. Many more health professionals feel actually the same way. I know some of them personally. but publicly they cannot speak out for fear of losing their job or grant funding. And these are the elements, the tinderbox, that can make for a revolution, or conversely rule by fiat and slip us more into dependence on modern technology and the people who pull those levers. Now, those founding fathers who were the framers, who are our heroes in our eyes, were reviled and despised by the British as rogues and criminals. Now, see how a change in perspective changes everything? Now, consider those of us asking legitimate and scientifically sound questions are being thought of and essentially treated in the same way by the powers of today's government, pharma, and media in an effort to put down a growing unrest and uncertainty with how things are actually playing out versus what we've been told. Revolution now requires personal responsibility to create independence from a system unintentionally rigged to make and keep you dependent and far from reaching your optimal self. Like those core human values of freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you deserve metabolic freedom by getting your body back to burning fat as fuel the way nature intended. Have a wonderful 4th of July.